folks, welcome to OTD, also known as On the Deck, where you can get all the sports you need in 10 minutes. My name is Adam Arduna. This is my mom, Gina.
He's a journalist.
She's the enthusiast.
I am a sports enthusiast, but I'm not going to lie to you, son. I'm a little unenthusiastic about the topic we have to talk about today. It makes me sad, to be honest with you.
Yes, it does make me sad as well, and I quickly want to mention that we are filming in the snow. We've done it plenty of times.
More than once.
It's March, and so in the Midwest, that still means that it can snow at any point in time. So you see us in our hat and coats, and it's cold outside.
And when we come to you on Thursday, we might be out here in shorts and T-shirts.
It's supposed to be in the 60s and 70s this weekend. So
who knows?
To our title at hand, we've got the N-word and racial slurs within sports. And this is a very tough topic to talk about because this deals with a lot of people and a lot of different races and a lot of different sports, because athletics is such a huge part, not just American cultures, but all over the world.
Right.
And people play sports. Humans play in athletics, or they take part in athletics. And so there are some really deep-seated issues, deeply rooted issues that, especially within this country, that have not been able to be eradicated or eliminated since the beginning. And that's a lot of it dealing with racial slurs, and in particular the N-word, especially within the black community. And when you get a bunch of people in one area, people tend to conform with whoever they're around, and you would things that you maybe wouldn't say on a regular basis or in a regular setting, you maybe tend to say, or you would say it when you are with a group of people that you're associated with behind closed doors or something like that. And so there are some sports teams that have team names that don't identify correctly with people or nations of this country. There are slang or different words that are said within locker rooms or different settings or on the field or in the court that should never be said, not just black but white as well. And we just want to bring these issues up because it's a really hard topic to just ignore in today's culture. Well,
we talked about this at one point, but we really, it was early on in the show, and I think it's appropriate to bring it back up. This week in the news, Andre Iguodala, who's a forward for the world champion Golden State Warriors. I know Cleveland won last year, but they got a championship ring the year before.
Right.
And it basically he plays for the Golden State Warriors, and in a post-game interview, he was trying to be glib and witty and sarcastic, and he used the N-word in reference to himself. He called himself the dumb N-word, and he talked about, when he found out he wasn't going to play, we just do what Massa says. He basically was being sarcastic, and if you hear it, you can hear the sarcasm in it, but it was so wildly inappropriate. Yeah. And what sparked this topic today was that we started to hear other analysts and journalists trying to justify not him using it in front of the camera. Everybody denounced it, like, oh, you shouldn't say that on camera. But what we started to hear was this meme of people saying, well, it's okay when it's just us. It's what we say in the barbershop. Yeah. It's what we say when we're in the house. Right. And our contention is you shouldn't say it. This is me, and I know what people are going to say. Don't tell me what to say. I'm an American. I have the freedom of speech. You absolutely do. But what you don't have the freedom to do is tell white people they can't say it and then turn around and say, well, we can say it. Right. No, it's either something you say or something you don't.
It's either bad or it's not.
It's bad or it's not.
Yeah.
And so it really drove me crazy to hear people trying to justify it. And there were some people like Chris Broussard and Sage Steele who said, absolutely not. I don't use the word. It should never be used. Jalen Rose came out and said he used to use it, but he has now evolved and he doesn't anymore. I'm good with that because people should evolve. Right. What I'm not good with is the excuses that, oh, it's just slang. It's how we talk, especially in sports. It's how we're hard. No, it isn't. You need to interject because I could go on forever and ever on this.
I just totally agree with you. I find myself feeling really torn because I know within at least the black community, it's a word that has been in the vocabulary since the beginning of us being over here.
Coming to this country 450 years ago.
The reason that it started is a bad reason. It wasn't a word to uplift or show empowerment or show someone being intellectual or show beauty. It's a very harsh and very wrong word to describe somebody. And the fact that within the community that we live in and are from, that word continues to be used on a daily, second to second, moment to moment basis. And you know, when I just think about the young kids within the black communities that don't have a clean slate of never hearing that word. They hear it every single day, and they grew up around it, so it doesn't. They think of it as normal English or normal language to be said.
Oh, and to prove your point, I have spent a lot of time in inner city and urban schools, and you hear 6-year-olds and 5-year-olds using the word with impunity because they literally hear it all the time in the black community.
Yes.
And I'm bringing this up not to say it's normalized in the black community. Yes, it is normalized, but it's normalized because it's internalized, and it is not good. And please miss me with this. It's different having the G-E-R versus the G-A. G-A is us embracing ourselves. We calling us the N-gers versus the N-gers. No, there is no difference. It is literally, to me, that's a vernacular issue. In the South, trust me, if it comes out of a white person's name, it sounds like the G-A too, but you're going to try to get upset if a white person says it. It should never be allowed. And just allow me one more quick second on this. When Africans were brought over here, the term Negro means black. Negro is black in Spanish.
It's a technical term for,
a good amount of people exploring the New World were Spanish, and a lot of those slave ships came through the Spanish ports in Cuba, etc. And so that word white people heard and couldn't say correctly, but it was used to define in a generalized term dark-skinned people. But from the beginning, they were stripping you of your identity because all of a sudden all you were was a color. And that color went from being a description to being a way to degrade you and say you were no longer human. You did not have the right as a man to love a woman and love your children and have rights and freedom. As a woman, you had no right to your own virtue. As a child, you didn't have a right to the freedoms and whimsy and imagination of childhood. You were an animal. And for anybody to try to sell me this story about if I'm in the club, in the barbershop, I could call you that. No, you cannot. And let me be clear, black person or white person, if you call me or one of my kids that word, we're going to have a problem. It shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be accepted. And I'm tired of seeing people on TV try to justify it. And I'm not going to call anybody else out on it right now because you know who you are. Stop using it. And then last thing, I heard someone say, well, if we stop saying it, is that going to end racism? No. It's not.
Of course not.
But that doesn't mean that we have to perpetuate it either. We have a responsibility to control what we can control. And we black people, African American, strong, beautiful, intelligent people can find other ways to describe ourselves other than a slave term of hatred and degradation. Boom, I'm done.
Well, first off, I want to say you elocuted that just beautifully. That was well said. I agree with absolutely everything you just said, and I just think it, unfortunately, within Hollywood, and it's I don't want to call it fantasized, but it's a word that you know, entertainers, actors, rappers, actresses, actors, people of all types of famous platforms have used. It's in movies, it's in all types of things, you know, different national platforms, and so you get a lot of people saying it, and it's one of those situations where it's like, we need to find a way to never say it anymore. It can't be just in every rap lyric. It can't be something that every comedian says when they step on stage. It can't be something, when we need the higher up people within the black community to really take a real stand, not just say, oh, we're gonna make a video and say, no, really take action about it.
And take the personal accountability to stop saying it.
Exactly.
All you know what it takes to stop something? You just stop it.
Doing it. And within the athletic world, it's embarrassing to hear these professional athletes use the term and use the word in front of people nationally. It's like you couldn't think of any other word to use, but you use that one.
It actually makes me want to cry, honestly.
It's really sad because it's like some of these guys are really smart people, and it's like you have to pull out that one. I really can't get with it. And like you said, the people that are trying to justify it, I know it's deep-seated in all the black communities. We just got to find a way to not do it anymore. It's really, really bad.
Would you say it about President Obama? If you sit in the barbershop and you're trying to describe President Obama amongst ourselves, is that the word you would use to describe him?
No. Or a beautiful black woman, Vanessa Williams.
No, you wouldn't use it.
That word, trying to describe her.
And if you would, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Exactly. Holly Berry or
and it's not funny either.
It's not. It's just, it shouldn't be in the dictionary. It should be eradicated from all slang. It shouldn't be utilized. There's other words that you can use to describe black people,
And
especially within our own community.
I have to say one more quick point, because I know we're running out of time. Someone said, well, other races use slang against each other. I'm going to give you an example of one that doesn't. Jewish people of Israeli descent, Jews in America, there is a racial slur. It starts with a K, and I will never say it.
Of course.
That they will not say. It was used to degrade them and humiliate them, and they don't call each other that in behind closed doors. No, they don't. And let me also say, just because someone else does it doesn't mean we should. I heard all these justifications on the air yesterday, and none of them work. So that I know.
I agree. No, you bring it. Yeah, one of my favorite sayings ever is, "Just because you can doesn't mean that you should," and that directly applies to the word that we're referencing. And then my last point. With the sports team there's a team up, an NFL team up in Washington, D.C. that has the name Redskin. That's probably going to be one of the last few times I ever say that word. But it is also very degrading to the Native Americans of this country. And just because Mr. Daniel Snyder went out and did some terrible polling from some Native American people that said, oh, that word doesn't offend them, doesn't mean that it still isn't offensive. And I can't believe that a professional organization like the NFL would continue to allow that team to continue to keep that word. There are some NFL analysts and other sportscasters that try not to say the team name because it is hard to not say
the Washington football
team. But the point is that within this era that we live in 2017, the racial slurs and the racial names and all the things that go out there shouldn't be allowed. And I know we're kind of on
we are. But let me, because you made a good point. I know we're over time, but when we say the N-word's acceptable for us, but no one else can say it, well, let's apply that to Native Americans. Maybe you had a few Native Americans who said, oh, that term doesn't bother me. You still shouldn't say it, because if it was called the Washington Coons, we'd be having a fit. Or the Washington Niggers, we'd be having a fit. So just because you found 10 Native Americans to tell you it's okay, Dan Snyder, it's not. And everybody else, quit using the word. It is a racially offensive word to describe a race, an entire nations of people that we eradicated. Shame on you, NFL. Shame on you, the Washington football team. And Dan Snyder, I'd love to have a conversation with you.
There's a lot of people
about
that like us as well.
There are a lot of us. Okay, we're over time.
We are over time.
I knew we would be.
I know that was kind of a tough subject for us today on the show, but we just wanted to get that out there because we got to say it. We're going to continue to raise this.
And let me be clear, you are a strong, beautiful black man.
Well, I appreciate that. I was raised right, and you are a strong, beautiful black woman, and we need to continue to support each other with all the communities within this country and all over the world. So we had to get that out there today.
We had to do it.
So we just want to say, it's part of the show. We bring up controversial topics.
That's right.
This is what we do. This is On the Deck. Please give us some comments and feedback for whatever you want to do. We appreciate you, Facebook Live.
Thanks, Facebook. Keep watching us, man. We appreciate it.
Like our show, like our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time, folks.